trends which will basically require us to reinvent the car and even further turn ourselves from being a car manufacturer to a mobility provider. And their digitalization, artificial intelligence are very important key ingredients. It's basically the merging between automotive industry and the tech industry. And this is here a platform. We all know the CES, but the CES has almost become a conventional place meanwhile to go. And this is a place obviously where between music and film and high tech, we are seeing many different aspects, including social aspects of these developments being looked at, very diverse. And that is therefore for us a great place to learn, to listen, and to try to change the kind of, show the kind of change which is happening in our company, to be more interesting partner for conversation, for looking for the future together.
So what's the role you're playing in the future if you feel comfortable being in Austin? So what is Daimler in the future?
As I just said, it will not be good enough in the future to just offer products and see if somebody comes and buy them. We are seeing, and we have this acronym which is CASE, which combines all these trends between connectivity, autonomous driving, shared economy, electric driving, which all of them are creating a major transformation of our business model, of the way we are doing business, of the culture within our company, how to approach these future opportunities. And we do believe that it's important for us not to stay within our, not that little company, but to open up. We will not be successful in this transformation without partnerships, without collaboration, without open source platforms. And this kind of spirit we can inhale here and meet very interesting people. And we think there's a lot of motivation to go to a place like this.
So if you read at least the German profiles about you, so they very often mention that you wear a lot of sneakers these days. So
well, this is wrong, as you can see.
I know, yeah, it's totally wrong. But is it true? So you changed the whole lifestyle at Daimler?
Well, we had this discussion a long time ago. I, outside of the company, obviously didn't wear suits anywhere, and sneakers or whatever. But it's I mean, it's not that important. But we discussed if that's still the right thing to have this kind of uniform.
Right.
And then somebody came up with the Casual Friday. Said, yeah, that was about 40 years ago. And then we said, well, the conclusion is we just should wear what we like to wear and where we feel comfortable in. And that led to the fact that relatively soon in the board, the majority changed. Some are still wearing suits, most are not. And this in itself then led to the fact that today you're coming to almost no meetings where people are wearing suits. It was not a mandate, it was not a different direction or whatever. It's just a change which is taking place. And once again, it's not important what you wear, but of course it's a little symbol of a changing culture and of a different direction as well.
I have a feeling in Germany it's really important if you wear sneakers or not. Will you wear them at the next shareholders meeting?
Well, that's one thing where last year my CFO and whoever told me, well, you can do that. You can, the chief financial officer, you can do what you want and wherever you want, but with this clientele, they will never buy a chair from Daimler anymore if you don't wear a suit and tie and so on. And
so the Mark Zuckerberg problem, right?
So ultimately I surrendered and I said, well, let's this year take one step and do it with a suit without tie, and next year we get away with a suit.
Okay. But at the end, there's a huge change going on in your company, and we were talking about this earlier here. So maybe the smartest thing you can do is build a new company on the side of the old company, because it's hard to make a reform internally. Can you describe the change process going on at Daimler?
Well, of course, there are many elements. One aspect is digitization, which changes the entire value chain, which changes the way we are working, which changes our customer relationship, which changes our products, everything. Coming from an mechanical engineering background, being confronted with opportunities of electric driving, we obviously needed change to some extent of competencies, but more of the way we are working. And of course, we had transformation processes in the past, and board took an offsite and came back with 15 consultants who told them what are the great changing agents and things you have to do, and then told everybody what he has to do, and then you had a new culture. And of course, people said, well, we've been there, we've seen that, and wait 2 years and then it will be over and we can continue to do our job. This time it's different because wherever I go, people tell me, well, we know we have to take on so many new ways, paths and things to do, and we know we can do much better. Help us to get rid of bureaucracy, of hierarchy, all of this stuff which is hindering us from doing the best job we can. And so it's on demand, and therefore we said the way we have to approach that has to be reflective of what we think is the outcome as well, and therefore we asked via intranet or people who is interested to develop the prototype, we are a car company, of the future of our culture of Daimler in 2020. And we had 144 people building 8 groups out of 1,000 who backed them up via the net. And they built 8 prototypes and then merged them into one prototype, and after 4 months they were from around the globe, all genders, all ages, all hierarchies, everything. And after 4 months we met with the board, and we thought, well, we have sent them on the Mission Impossible. There's the guy from the assembly line at Fuso in Japan and the app developer from Silicon Valley, and they via internet and only meeting once shall develop a comprehensive culture for this company that is stupid. And they thought, okay, we did a lot, but now we'll come and present them and they'll reject 90% and perhaps adopt one idea. They came with 150 ideas, which were in 8 clusters of game changers, and we were totally overwhelmed. And at the end of the day, we directly approved 80% of it, and said let's work on the other 20% to tweak them a little bit. And these same people are the game changers who continue. We are just mentors. And this whole thing is a bottom-up approach. And I have never seen so much energy in our company in the sense of change. There are many elements in all areas. There are things which are more sexy, like swarm organizations and different form of working techniques in agile organizations. There are more administrative things like how do we evaluate our people. We get rid of our current evaluation system. We will not have individual bonuses anymore, but because we're believing in teams, this will be based on the company result. The development of people will be based on feedback by the peers, by their managers, and by the people working in the teams. So these are just little elements, but 150 ideas which we are executing. Some of them are already in organization established. We said that there's no decision anymore where more of 2 layers are involved, no matter what it's about. So all of this is creating more and more momentum, and we are already seeing very important results. You said build a new company on the sideline. We do believe talking points about these agile organizations that probably at the end of the day, like 20% of our company should work in that form. On the other hand, we're having the next S-class, the assembly line still will not be built in a swarm. So that's where there are companies out there who are working in a more hierarchical work. There are companies who are working more in this network-based system. What is basically not there as a blueprint is a combination of both. And that's what we have to go for, where we have to explore. And that's of course even more fun. We'll make mistakes, things will not work, but I'm sure we'll get forward.
Cool. Interesting.
Short question, long answer.
Yeah,
I apologize. I'm excited of this topic.
If you, maybe that's a strange question, what is a car? So especially in the future, if you do think about it from a design thinking perspective, so you think, what are the problems that a car in the future will solve for the user? What will that be? What's the function? What's the mission of a car in the future?
There's certainly different approaches as an answer to this question. One approach would be the third place. So when you have your home as one place you spend a lot of time, your working environment as the second place you spend a lot of time, your car is the third place. And this has as one characteristic that it takes you from A to B, sometimes faster, sometimes not so fast. But at the same time, it's a space where you have your own environment, where you can do, with the help of autonomous technology, many things beyond getting from A to B. You can entertain yourself, you can communicate, you can work, you can relax, you can take care of your health. Many things which are possible there, and to create that space and room and time, individual space, is our task for the future, which still can serve to take a country road, have much fun in driving the car and just enjoying driving, but it can just take you from A to B while you're doing all the other things you have to do. And one step further, you can even not be the car, and the car can do things for you and get your stuff from the cleaners or take your mother-in-law to the hospital or whatever has to be done, and you can stay at home and enjoy your day. So it's certainly a totally different approach, plus the S in case the sharing, you might not own the car, but the car might be part of a platform which you use or don't use.
But isn't that a nightmare for you? So there was this press briefing of your annual results in February, I think, and there was this sentence in a video: our customers do not have to. Our customers do not have to own a car. This is cool because I don't own a car. I think I'm your customer, using car sharing services and stuff all day. So, but isn't that a nightmare for a manufacturer?
Well, first of all, of course, customers don't have to do anything. They better decide themselves what they want to do, and if we meet their desires, we might be successful. Generally spoken, these four main trend lines I was talking about ultimately will provide much higher variety of services, of products to the customers than today. And when I'm an entrepreneur, that's in the first place a great thing. When new services based on technology can be offered to customers, this means opportunity. That means at the same time that some services or products we're offering today might become obsolete. Now we can say, well, we have to defend what we do today, and what we do tomorrow might provide less profit or whatever, but then we are just singing our last song. Statistics basically work against us, because in most phases of disruption, the top players of the perhaps old industry were not the top players in the new technology anymore. Whatever you think of steam locomotives and electric locomotives and all of these changes typically change the players. We want to beat the odds.
Right.
And we will definitely not beat the odds by defending what we're doing today. We are extremely successful, more successful than we ever have been. And if that leads us to the conclusion, don't change, winning team, winning concept, that is the end of the company. And therefore, if things get changed, we want to be the game changers. And I don't worry if we sell more or less cars afterwards. I don't worry whatever content that might be in the future. I'm convinced there's tremendous amount of opportunity, because new things can be offered to the customers, and we want to do that.
As a non-owner of cars, I know almost all the interfaces of all cars, because you go into it, you rent a car, or you go buy a car to go, or drive now, whatever. And so you know all the little details, and it's always a problem if you go in with your device. So if you don't own a car, in the future you use a lot of cars, a lot of systems. Will that be the major problem, so that you take your own device in the car and it just recognizes it and you knows where you are heading and things like that? You don't have to search for anything. And didn't you lose that war already about the software in the car, which is here, for example, or an Android phone or whatever?
Well, first of all, again, it's a question of mindset. I remember the times when we tried to teach the Americans that they should drink their coffee at home and shouldn't ask us for cup holders, because that would only get our cars dirty. Not a very smart idea. Therefore, to try to establish our own ecosystem in our car and make it exclusive and say we do the best anyway, would be killer. So one absolute necessity is that whatever your ecosystem is which you prefer, you have to have seamless transition into our car. It doesn't have to be a Faraday cage, whatever that is, cage, thanks, which protects you from the rays from the outside. That's the opposite. You have to be always totally connected. But as a form of competition, we have some unique capabilities. We know more about what's going on in the car than anyone else. We have data available from the traffic, from other things which others don't have. And if we provide services for you, use cases for you, which are unique, you might choose to get to our ecosystem and might prefer that. And that's what the ultimate battle is about, not by exclusion, but by superiority of what we can offer. And this is, of course, a tough one. Yesterday I said we want to be the best between Audi and BMW. We are kind of there today. Tomorrow they challenge us and might change, but that's not good enough anymore. The scope is much wider. We have different competitors now, and our task is now to be the best in this much wider field between the Googles and Apples and Pencils and Teslas, you name it. But of course that's more fun.
So there are two other fields of competition, battle, whatever, AI and autonomous driving and electromobility. So, and I want to talk for a minute about frustration. So you have been the first German manufacturer that made a successful test on a German autobahn with a Mercedes driving from, I think, Mannheim to Pforzheim or something. BMW is doing research, Audi, Nissan, Honda, Volvo, Bosch, Tesla, Google, Apple, Uber, in autonomous cars, right? You have this highway pilot system, a truck driving around on the highway, and things like that. So the research goes back for 20 or 30 years. So why don't we have self-driving cars since 10 years? So the technology was there.
Well, 10 years ago, and I'm an engineer and I have a little insight in these topics, I would still thought this science fiction and not in our lifetime. And the development which took place in recent years, and AI, artificial intelligence, being one of the most relevant new capabilities in this regard, is breathtaking. And at the same time, you needed the computing power to be able to apply these technologies in the real world. You have to imagine when you have an autonomous car and you have this deep learning computer power in your vehicle, you need about 2 kilowatts of cooling just for the computer, for the power of computer in your car. So when you have an electric car, about 20% of the range of your car you need for cooling of your computer. So this is not a small thing. This is not another smartphone. We talk about some extremely complex, extremely big. Or look at it from a different angle. On the one hand, we say 95% of the accidents are because of human failure. So it's easy. Let's take an autonomous car, and already by now we can, with our systems, prevent whatever, 70% of these cases from happening. But at the same time, it's true as well that between those accidents, people statistically drive 14 million kilometers accident-free. That's a damn good job. And to get your autonomous car to that level, or even better, because people won't accept it, who are as good as human-driven cars, is an extremely difficult task under all circumstances, with snow, with rain, with whatever. And therefore, it's still a miracle that we are a few years away from autonomous cars. Yes, absolutely. But we are.
So when will it happen? Sorry, I have to ask.
Fine.
So when will it happen? So will we ever have full autonomy in cities, for example? And so your engineers tell me it's 220 or something, but it's just the first version, or?
There are two paths. The one path is that assistance systems become more and more powerful. So what started with cruise control and then the distronic and went on, applies more and more functions where the vehicle provides a safety net. When you make a mistake, it jumps in, slams the brake or does whatever to prevent the worst from happening. And this step by step, these are cars you use everywhere, your today's cars, and these more and more will evolve into a stage 5 autonomous car. Next step is stage 3, where the car takes some tasks autonomously, but you are still in control and responsible. That's one path, evolutionary. The other path starts with a robot taxi right away, so a totally autonomous car. But there the evolution happens that you, in the beginning, only can do that in a very restricted area. You need the mapping and all of that, and only under certain conditions, not, as I said, when it's snowing or when there's ice on the surface and so on. And the evolution there goes by widening the area where you can use it and by widening the conditions under which you can do that. Both developments will see the first elements around 2020. In both cases, it's not fully autonomous in the one path and it's not everywhere in the other path. But there are elements which are fully autonomous. And by the end of the next decade, you have, under all circumstances, in all areas, all autonomous possibilities you want.
Okay, so when exactly?
I just said by the end of next decade, which is about 29, you definitely have it all. And how the ramp up between the beginning of next decade and the end will take place depends on all of us.
Okay, interesting. So one of the problems
you're talking about that like new islands which don't have these Laufmaschen, I don't know what that is. It's a little bit more complicated.
I thought so. So let's talk about problems. We are Germans. So there's another problem. You gave a talk in the morning about HERE, right, which is a corporation of big German car manufacturers and a lot of interesting digital players jumping in at the moment, which is about maps, right? Which seems to be so, having detailed digital maps seems to be a problem. I know one or two companies that own these technology already. So is that a weak spot of the car industry at the moment? So this seems to be obvious. Why would BMW work with you on a core technology?
Falk Städteplan was called a map some time ago. Google Maps is called Maps. Both has nothing to do with what we are talking about here. We're talking about high precision, which means like 2-3 centimeters precision. We're talking about three-dimensional, 30 feet high, basically a sphere around the entire globe, 30 feet high, in this precision described or defined in a real-time way. So every change in this description has to be updated on a real-time basis. This is a humongous task. Nobody has done that. We are starting with that. Here was the furthest part of Nokia in the past, was the furthest in this regard. And as there are unbelievable amounts of data accumulated, and it's about privacy and it's about cybersecurity as well, we thought it's extremely important, first of all, that we make sure that this kind of prerequisite for autonomous driving is built and will exist. And secondly, that we are in control to the extent that we can promise our customers that the data will be used in the way they accept it and not in different ways. And that was an absolute necessity then to manage that development. And as it's a huge task, we thought it's better to do that together than stemming it alone. As all together, this new world, we only can succeed in partnerships. We're talking about frenemies, so they're partners which in some areas are our friends. We work together. At the same time, we can be competitors in other areas, which is the enemy part. And for that reason, this acquisition of here from Nokia and the inclusion now of Tencent being a Chinese partner that we really can cover the entire globe, and of technology partners like Intel is a mandatory prerequisite for autonomous driving. It doesn't exist today.
So you're exchanging detailed data about the landscape, the cities, stuff going on in the streets, traffic jams.
The U is basically our cars. So we together are selling 7 million vehicles per year, including trucks, buses, vans from us, for instance. And they are with their sensors collecting this data and providing them to their total platform and architecture, where then again artificial intelligence does their sensor confusion and data confusion to fusion, not confusion. Hopefully. To ultimately then provide this, we call that scout capability, to look around the corner, to know what will happen in the next 5 seconds to the car, to the autonomous car.
What about parking lots?
Of course, that's the easy part of it. That on the one hand, the cars already today, we are providing that now independent of here, that our cars start to spot parking places and to send this information to others who are looking for parking places. But this will be one characteristic of these maps. At the same time, the more autonomous driving we see, the less parking places we need, because these autonomous cars will not sit around in the cities, but can be, if they are not in use, parked somewhere out, and thereby make our cities even more livable.
Will I buy? Can I buy an S-Class with a priority parking lot in the future? So if the swarm tells me there's a parking lot, so first of all the expensive cars get the parking lot with service like that. Would that be interesting?
We had this discussion in the internet.
I didn't know. So I just invented that.
No, not about parking places for the S-Class, but about priority in the internet. I think this is one of the benefits we're living in the democracy, that the first idea that the basics, be it healthcare, be it space, is not preferenced based on your possibilities, your financial possibilities, but is accessible and available to everybody, and I think we should keep it that way.
Okay. Do you know a guy called William Gibson? Who knows William Gibson? You know William Gibson? Okay.
I know a Gibson guitar, but that's something else.
Sorry,
no.
He's a great science fiction writer, and he wrote a book called Neuromancer in the 80s, which is important because he invented the concept of cyberspace and things like that, so Matrix and stuff like that. And there's an interesting thing in this novel. There's a Mercedes car which is intelligent with the name Ahmed. And Ahmed has a real personality, he understands social interactions. And I recently visited Gibson to rethink his novel, and he's really excited what's going on in the car market at the moment, and he says we need cars that understand human interaction. And there's something deep behind this, maybe, because if the car doesn't understand what's going on in the street, very often it's a social context. So traffic is not just things flowing around in the cities. If you look at it, if I'm stopping at a red light, I could also talk to my friend to my right, and I will never walk, so the car will never. So I saw that when I used the Google car. So most of the time they get confused by social situations they do not understand. Isn't that an unsolvable problem at the end?
No, but it's a real problem, and it's something we have to tackle. We need to have communication, for instance, and we are working on that. We already have shown some ideas how this could be developed. For instance, the car has to communicate with the environment. So, for instance, we have now vehicles which have about 100,000 LED lights in the headlamps, and they can project in movies if you want, but more importantly, for instance, there are a passenger passage on the street to signal you can pass, I wait till you're gone. We need some basic icons which the car will send out to explain what it's going to do. The other way around, when you're sitting in the car and you're giving up control, you might feel bad if you don't know what the car is doing. You see like when you're sitting on the co-pilot seat and you don't know is the driver paying attention, and you're already pushing the metal in front of your foot because you hope he finally starts to brake because you didn't see that. So we think about head-up displays or embedded reality where the passengers in an autonomous car can see what the car sees, can see he realized there's a car, there's a pedestrian, and they're going there doing this, and relax there, okay, he's taking well care of me. So this human interaction is absolutely key for the acceptance of autonomous driving in society in general, and we are not working on in this field just with engineers, but we are working with anthropologists and psychologists and many people who, futurists, who try to understand what are the interactions within society based on these changes we are technologically driving forward.
So you're employing car shrinks, right?
Exactly. Tomorrow the car might lie back on the sofa, I don't know.
So there's another problem, which is the ethics of these systems, right? It's famous. There was this interview, Christoph von Hugo, one of your engineers, that went viral recently with the really old question: should my car kill myself, so the driver or the people on the road? Isn't that a little bit overrated from your point of view?
On the one hand, we are certainly talking about very extreme situations, which in real life will occur extremely seldom. On the other hand, I think it's important that we raise these kind of questions early on and do not pretend that everything is easygoing and there are no critical questions surrounding autonomous driving. I'm glad that, different from quite a number of other technologies where many people, especially in Germany, talk about the risks all the time without even mentioning the opportunities they provide. So far, autonomous driving has a positive connotation altogether. But in order to keep it that way, we have to be totally transparent and raise ourselves all kind of questions which are surrounding that. But this is not a question which is limited to autonomous cars. This is related to robots altogether, and this is related to robots in the working environment and as servants and assistants in your household, what have you. And there are some critical questions when, by the algorithms which are written, the robots seemingly make decisions. What shall and can they be based on? And this cannot be decided by the line coder who makes this or that algorithm, and that cannot be decided by the manufacturer or the car manufacturer who develops these products. This is a discussion the society at large has to hold and to discuss what kind of liability, and this is of course another area which is important in this respect, and what kind of space and freedom you want to give to these robots, and where there are limitations and you have to act randomly or whatever.
So we need car psychologists and car philosophers to solve these problems.
We are living in a very exciting industry.
Yeah. A year ago I had the pleasure to visit a conference organized by Deutsche Telekom, which is under German Haus roots, and one of the big topics...
You won't tell us what you discussed there.
I can't tell you what we discussed there, but I can't mention who said what.
You understood the rules.
There was one interesting. There are all these global CEOs coming together, talking about AI in a very open manner, and so one AI researcher stepped up and said, "Let's be honest, driving trucks is a shit job. We should be happy that it goes away." And we had a really lively discussion. It was right after Brexit, but the more interesting, brutal discussion came up when we talked about these things. And we at Zeit Online tried to do some research, so we talked to actual truck drivers, and they love their jobs. So it's a nightmare. It's not true that truck drivers hate what they are doing. You're building this technology so they get rid of their jobs. What do we do about this problem?
Well, in general, I don't like when one group of people makes assessment what the other group likes and doesn't like, or even tell them what they have to like or don't have to like. I think this is not leading anywhere. Secondly, in the first place, we are building products which provides this beautiful workplaces for truck drivers, and we are very much involved in the trucking world, and I know that's highly emotional, can be tough, it can be difficult, but it's an interesting profession. At the same time, progress is creating change, and in all these very basic transformation periods, we have seen specific capabilities, competencies becoming void and others becoming needed. And you could not solve the problem by having the guy who is heating the fire on the steam locomotive keep his job on the electric locomotive, but you could not stay with steam locomotives. So you have to use the time, you have to work on this transition. Take another example, electric drivetrains. Electric powertrain has about 40%, about a seventh of the labor content of a combustion engine plus transmission. So now we can sit there and say, well, let's be quiet about that, nobody should know, and see when it happens, and then we send everybody home. That would be totally irresponsible. I've been last week in the Schleierhalle, which is a facility close to our plant, and there were 7,000 workers of our powertrain plant, and we discussed that topic, and we discussed it totally openly. And I said, the good thing is we're having time. We don't know when the transition will be completed, we don't know where the tipping point is, how fast it goes, but we know it's not next year. And we know that earlier we begin this transition, the more time we have. And therefore, I can promise everybody in this room or in this big hall where we were, that their jobs are not on the line. But I cannot promise that every job will be available in the future. I promise that they will not. So the number of jobs will go down, and let's start with that today. It's irresponsible if I hire a new guy for that plant today. And that was a discussion we openly had, and of course there was not total coincidence of the perspective of the labor representatives and myself, but it's very important that you're transparent, that you discuss that early on and explain your thinking and give confidence that these things are not put at the side, but they are recognized and we're working on the solutions together. And the same applies to the topic you were talking about. Of course, in the long run, today we have the problem that there are not enough truck drivers. So for a certain period of time this will solve this problem. But then we'll come to a point of time where there will be less drivers needed. And as this will become much more efficient, you don't need even a driver cap, but you can have the load all over your engine. This will come. So let's take the time to organize this transition, but at the end of the day, every one of these transformations driven by technology have provided at the end more labor and not less, but different.
Are you a friend of universal basic income? Do you think that's a good idea?
I don't think so. I'm a friend of a state which takes care of people who for whatever reason are not capable of looking for their own living, but I don't think that then I could be friend of a free car for everybody as well. Would be less costly and perhaps more pleasant. But I think the basic idea that you give something to get something in the labor market as well is a good one. And then again, the ones for whatever reason you cannot stand up in this competition should be helped and should be kept safe.
Your contract comes to an end 2019, is that correct?
Yes. It started 3 months ago, so I don't think it's a big topic.
What will you do next?
Well, I do other things already by now, and I will do more of them afterwards.
There's one very strange last question, and you don't have to do it. I wanted to ask you if you could say a name for me, because I read in the German press, FAZ and whatever, you never mention that name. I see if that's true. Could you say Donald Trump?
It's relatively easy, Donald Trump.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if anybody is supposed to say something, but